Smash! No one could tell what broke first, the beer bottle or his pride. All they knew was that it shattered, loud and sharp. In the dead of night, in a soaked parking lot outside a rundown casino on the outskirts of Mississippi, purple and red neon lights flickered overhead, casting shadows across an inky puddle that mirrored the shape of a man stumbling out. His crumpled shirt smeared with a streak of dried blood on the sleeve. Not from anyone else, from himself. Alex Warren, police lieutenant, 20 years on the force, lit his last cigarette with trembling hands, then tossed the lighter onto the pavement. The flame flickered, then died. His lips were cracked, jaw clenched tight, cold sweat glued to the back of his neck. Tonight, he didn't just lose money, he lost his pride. What he didn't know was this. In just a few more minutes, he would come face to face with a man and a name, powerful enough to tear down what little rank and conscience he had left. A meeting so destined, it would haunt him for the rest of his life. 4 straight hands, each one a flicker of hope, and each hope another slice into whatever scraps he still called honor. He used to believe he wasn't the kind of man whose hands ever shook holding a gun. But now those very hands were trembling, from losing it all, his daughter's college savings, gone with that cursed 7 of diamonds. God damn it! Alex kicked open the patrol car door, roared a curse into the night, then fired up the engine. It growled loud, too loud, like a wounded beast screaming through the dark. But he wasn't heading back to the station, and sure as hell not home. He drove, like a man looking for a reason to explode. Someone to be the excuse. And this system, the same rotten system that made him write squeaky clean reports every time he clashed with a black man, never gave him a chance to do the right thing without a leash. Pale yellow streetlights swept across the windshield. A black sedan pulled into the curve ahead. The car wasn't speeding, wasn't doing anything wrong, but it didn't need to, just refusing to yield. That was reason enough to become a target. Alex hissed, "Drive like that. You trying to teach me how to drive?" He hit the siren, flipped the lights, then floored the gas, tailing the car close, his lips twisting into a crooked, bitter smirk. "Luck ditched me tonight, but at least I can still catch you." The black sedan didn't speed up, didn't drift, it just kept moving. By the book, steady, unbothered, like it didn't even hear the wailing sirens or see the flashing reds drilling into its rear view. And that drove Alex mad. He clenched the wheel tight, head buzzing like an overblown speaker. The man behind that wheel, a face he hadn't even seen, suddenly became the living symbol of everything Alex hated. Calmness, clean decency, that silent smugness of a man who never had to prove a damn thing. And worst of all, he was black. He flicked on the loudspeaker. "Pull over." No reason, no witnesses. The sedan slowly eased to the curb. The window rolled down halfway. A deep, polite male voice came through. "Is there a problem, officer?" Alex didn't answer. He walked up, hand resting on his holster. He didn't draw, but he didn't hide it either. Just left it there, hanging, like a threat waiting to happen. "License and registration." The man inside, in mid-30s, button-white shirt, brown leather strap watch, spoke with steady calm. "I haven't committed a violation, and under state law, I said license, registration." He spat out each word, sharp and raw, like a weapon stripped of pretense. The man let out a quiet breath. He opened the glove box, pulled out his wallet and keys and passed them through the window. Alex snatched them like ripping something off. Didn't even look. He didn't want information. Didn't want to check a damn thing. What he wanted was surrender. "Step out of the car." "Officer, I said get out of the fucking car." That shout wasn't just a command. It was the last shred of power he had left in a life slipping through his fingers. The man didn't move right away. Instead, he calmly slipped a hand into his jacket and pulled out a phone, as if checking a message, or maybe calling his wife. The screen lit up. It wasn't a random call. The contact read, J. Crockett, Birchfield case. He'd saved that number 3 months ago, right after a direct meeting with that woman's office. That day, the Birchfield land case was officially reopened after 2 years of delay under a pile of insufficient evidence memos. Marcus was one of 3 clients called to speak as direct plaintiffs, and the only one who'd submitted full documentation showing he'd been denied a loan without cause. After the hearing, he was scheduled for a private meeting with Crockett. 10 minutes. Tops. But he still remembered every word she said, staring into his eyes over a thick folder. This case won't be clean. It's land, banks, local PD, and dirtier hands than you think. Someone might try to intimidate you, pull you over, ask questions, flip the script. Don't handle it yourself. If anything happens, call me. Call direct. Anytime. Marcus had smiled faintly back then, partly because he thought she was exaggerating, partly because he wanted to believe the world wasn't really that bad. But tonight, with red lights washing over his rearview mirror and the name Alex Warren stepping out like a villain straight from the ugliest corner of a civil rights report, Marcus understood. This was the moment she warned him about, and that number shown wasn't just a hotline anymore. It was a lifeline to the truth. One ring, then connection. Marcus held the phone to his ear. His voice was low, deliberate, each word slicing clean through the line, like evidence being logged. This is Marcus Tillman, Birchfield legal case. I'm being pulled over without cause by Officer Alex Warren. Location, Highway 92, edge of Birchfield. No questions on the other end. Just one answer. Solid as steel. Got it. Give me 15 minutes. Marcus ended the call, then stepped out of the car. Alex walked up. His hand still rested on the holster. More habit than threat. His voice came out thick, soaked in old liquor and fresh failure. Who the fuck were you calling? Marcus didn't flinch, didn't break eye contact. My legal representative, Alex sneered, started circling the car like a dog sniffing out where to sink its teeth. Each step slapped against the wet pavement, hard and hollow. His eyes swept fast, predator-like, even though deep down he knew there was nothing here to charge. You carrying a weapon? No. Drugs? No. Anything at all? Marcus exhaled. I've got rights. The air snapped tight around them, a simple sentence, but it dropped like a steel weight into the pit of Alex's gut. He stepped in, close enough for his breath to land on Marcus's face, thick with the kind of power that had long since rotted any sense of justice. The reek of sweat and cigarettes hung off him like a fist. He hissed, low and even. You think you got rights? Out here? Marcus stayed silent. Alex's hand clenched tighter around the strap of his holster, thumb tapping the leather in slow, deliberate beats. He circled Marcus like some third-rate interrogator, with no badge, no rules. You people are all the same. Polite talk, neat shirts, think that hides the fucking stink of fear. He stopped, jabbed a finger straight into Marcus's chest. I know you're kind the second I see you. Clean car, perfect paperwork. But your head, full of games. A black man who knows the law. That's the worst goddamn kind. Marcus didn't look away, but his jaw began to tighten. Alex's voice started to rise, like he was putting on a show for someone who wasn't there. Or what? You think some fancy lawyer's gonna save your ass? I don't give a damn who you called. Out here tonight, I'm the only one wearing a badge. He shoved Marcus, not hard enough to knock him down, just enough to humiliate him. Then he leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. You want to find out what it's like to spend the night in Birchfield lockup? I write 3 lines on a report and you're in? You know how many I've sent in already? He snorted. Then, in a mockingly syrupy tone, same type as you. Polite, well-spoken. Think that's enough to dance around the law. But in the end, one signature from me, and suddenly you're resisting arrest. Want me to slap you a couple times and throw in assaulting an officer while I'm at it? Marcus pressed his lips together. His hands hung loose, but his back was straight as a board. Alex wasn't done. His breath was hot and reeking of booze. You know what makes you people always think you're being treated unfairly? It's 'cause you can't admit you already lost. The day you were born. Then he hissed through gritted teeth. Lost. The day you were born. Marcus raised his head and looked him dead in the eye. His voice was low, steady but firm. You have the right to do your job. You don't have the right to humiliate me. Alex laughed. Humiliate? Out here in the goddamn dark, you think I need to split hairs over that? I'm the only one here with authority. You're just a report waiting to be filed. One line about you not cooperating, and you're in a holding cell by morning. Nobody's even going to ask why. Marcus exhaled hard. You can write whatever you want, but I'm not staying silent. Just then, from the distance, a white glow began to emerge through the thick night. Raindrops shimmered in the headlight beam, lighting up Marcus's shoulders like a silent armor. Alex squinted. The light made no sound, but it was enough to make his spine slacken slightly. The car pulled up. The door opened, as if every movement had already been choreographed in a symphony only the alert could hear. A woman stepped out, with a calm so precise it made every trace of rage nearby feel childish. The wind blew across, catching the sleek bun tied tightly at her nape. So tight that even the rain slid right off, as if gravity itself respected her composure. She walked forward. None of the three moved. Marcus exhaled, lightened, and Alex. The only thing he did was blink, more than usual. The wind carried the scent of wet soil and metallic exhaust. When she stopped, her eyes held no questions, no warnings, no compromise. Just the unflinching weight of someone planting a sign mid-road that said, "This is where your power ends." Her voice rang out, low, clear, and sharp as the final line of a court ruling. Who were you planning to put in your next report, Lieutenant Warren? Alex flinched slightly. His own name, when spoken by her, didn't sound like a call. It sounded like a line already drawn on a form awaiting final signature. He raised his eyebrows, a weak attempt to push back the rising panic. Who the hell are you? This is an active police scene. I have the right. You have the right to remain silent, she cut in, eyes locked onto his face. And if no one ever taught you when to use it, tonight might be the time. She kept walking, gaze fixed squarely on his, as if waiting for him to give her a reason bad enough to write down. You've got a mouthful of judgment. So let me ask, which agency do you represent? Or are you just some loud civilian looking to play hero in the rain? A beat. Then she lowered her briefcase to her side, brushed a windblown strand of hair from her cheek, and let her voice strike with the force of steel. Jasmine Crockett, sitting congresswoman, member of the House Judiciary Committee, and the woman whose client you were just about to slap into an illegal report. Alex froze. His body didn't move, but his eyelid twitched. The wind seemed to veer off course. The sounds, rain, engines, even his own breath, receded into a distant hum. He mouthed, staggered a step back, then looked at Marcus, like he needed someone to confirm this wasn't a dream. You're Crockett? For real? Crockett didn't nod, didn't confirm. She just stared him down. Because in that moment, a name was all it took to end the fight. Her name leaving his mouth carried enough weight to make his entire frame recoil. Just for a moment. But like any man addicted to control, Alex clung to his last mask, a voice louder than reason. So you're the one he called, he growled, throat dry as sandpaper. Perfect. The whole damn show. Aggrieved client, political Wonder Woman, real heartwarming stuff. He laughed, short, bitter, and snapped. All of you think you're slick. You knew I don't have a body cam. Knew this spot's dead quiet, middle of nowhere. Knew damn well a polished black guy's sweet little testimony will get more airplay than any police report. You planned it all, didn't you? Marcus stayed silent, eyes still locked on him. Alex stepped in closer, his voice hissing through clenched teeth. Look at you. Crisp shirt, clean shave, articulate speech. A picture-perfect black man to turn the cop into the goddamn villain. Then he spun toward Crockett, pointing straight at her. And you? Where the hell did you come flying in from? What? Stepped out of some fancy-ass hearing on your way home to a warm house and picture-perfect kids and thought you'd swing by and play civil rights hero? Crockett didn't move. Alex let out a jagged laugh. You want to know where I just came from? I just left a shithole casino by the river. Lost everything. Rent for this month. Tuition for my daughter. To a bunch of assholes sitting on dog-eared cards like they were holding the goddamn fate of the universe. He screamed, his veins bulging at the neck. I lost it all in 30 fucking minutes. And now I gotta stand here and take lectures on what's right. On rights? On justice? He slammed a hand down on Marcus's hood. The impact rang out sharp, slicing clean through the night. You don't know what that feels like. To be stripped bare. Not for breaking the law, but for believing the game was real. Then he stopped. His eyes darted, his rage now drifting, unfocused. That's when Crockett finally spoke. Softly, like she'd just finished listening to a confession, spoken by the accused himself. So that's it. The reason you tried to arrest someone tonight wasn't on this road. It was back at the table you lost everything on. 1 second passed. The words weren't shouted, but they sliced the air. A final line between duty and revenge. Alex said nothing. His hands clenched. No longer on his gun, but trembling by his sides. Marcus exhaled quietly, like something had just clicked. Not that he was targeted for the color of his skin, but for being the canvas onto which a broken man painted his loss. Crockett stepped into the space between them. No rush, no hesitation. But every step planted like a stake in the pavement. Her voice rose, not loud, but with the weight of a gavel. You think you're the only man who's ever lost everything? Her eyes stayed on Alex. I've seen mothers lose their children in the middle of the night just because they stepped into the wrong zip code. I've held a father who collapsed in my office, shaking because his daughter was labeled a living piece of evidence in an investigation nobody even filed. I've heard enough. I've seen enough. And not once did I see a man lose at gambling and walk away with the power to rewrite the rules of the road. She paused. The air thickened. You lost money? I believe you. You're desperate? I won't deny that. But the moment you walked into this night with a gun and a badge, thinking they could cover your debts, that's when you crossed the line. Her voice dropped lower, softer, but sharper than steel. Because when a man uses authority to fill the hole left by loss, he's no longer law enforcement. He becomes the threat. Alex's neck tensed, but no words came. Crockett didn't stop. She turned slightly toward Marcus, but didn't show her back to Alex, as if she knew the man behind her wouldn't dare move without first understanding what he was up against. You didn't call me because you were scared, she said to Marcus. You called because you knew. Sometimes you have to bring the truth into the light before someone twists it into evidence against you. Then she looked back at Alex, didn't lift her chin, but somehow her gaze lifted his face right out of the mud it was sinking in. And I didn't come here to save anyone. I came to do what this system should have done a long time ago. Draw a damn line. Alex gave a bitter laugh, but there was no fight left in it. He looked like a man trying to balance on a floor that had just caved beneath him. You think you're somebody, huh? You only heard his side. And me? I've seen hundreds like him. They all know when to play the victim, especially the ones whose families had run-ins with the cops. Must be genetic. He exhaled like draining the last ounce of oxygen from his chest. He jerked his head toward Marcus, threw out the line. Bet. Your brother was just as smug as you. The night held still, just for a beat. Crockett shifted slightly, hand moving inside her coat. Not for a weapon, but for a folded file, its edges worn, paper yellowed. She didn't hand it over. She held it, like someone gripping a verdict that had waited too long. Alex Warren, she said, pronouncing every syllable. That name. I'd heard it before. When Marcus called, he didn't need to explain much. I heard your name, and I knew what to bring. She raised the edge of the file. This is the internal report from Station 14, 5 years ago, about a man named Lamar Tillman, pulled from his car in the rain. No warrant, no clear reason, except 4 words scribbled in the write-up. Exhibited threatening behavior. He suffered 2 broken ribs, a bruised lung, 4 nights in the hospital. Crockett stepped forward. Her voice dropped, colder now. The report says he lunged at the officer, but there was no footage, no witnesses, just one man, named Alex Warren, who filed that report at 2:37 a.m., signature shaky, from rain or from alcohol. Alex went rigid. Marcus didn't move, but his throat shifted ever so slightly. Crockett lowered the file, her gaze held on Alex. Do you even know who Marcus is? Or have you not put the last name together yet? Marcus finally spoke, soft, each word carried by years of pain. Lamar was my brother. He turned toward Alex. His voice wasn't loud, wasn't shaky, but it hit like a hand pressed hard on the chest of a man caught in the wrong. I stayed silent for 5 years because I believed this system could still correct itself. But tonight, when I saw you walk up to me, no different than that night 5 years ago, I knew. My silence fed men like you. Alex opened his mouth, but no words made it out. Crockett closed the file. Her eyes didn't need to stay cold now. Lamar died 4 months later. They said he crashed drunk, but the hospital report listed no alcohol in his blood. One thing's certain, from the night he walked into that ER after the rain, he never slept peacefully again. She turned to Marcus, gave a quiet nod, not praise but recognition, then faced Alex one last time. I didn't come here tonight to rescue anyone. I came to end a chain of mistakes that started with your goddamn name. And right now, Marcus Tillman is the last person who needs questioning. Alex stepped back half a pace. His eyes locked on the file in Crockett's hands like it might ignite. This is bullshit. That's old history. No one can prove. No one needs to prove it, Crockett cut in. Her voice didn't rise, but carried a cadence that could silence a whole congressional hearing. Because the person who wrote that report was you. She lifted the back of the file slightly, where the rushed signature remained. A. Warren, 0237 a.m., T14 internal use only. Alex froze, then screamed, "That wasn't my fault. He grabbed me first. I was defending myself. It was pouring. I don't remember clearly." Marcus looked at him. There was no anger in his eyes now, just fatigue, the kind of tired that comes from hearing the same off-key song your whole life. My brother filed a complaint back then. He said a flashlight was pointed straight into his face. Then the car door yanked open. The officer didn't say a word, just started cursing, exactly like tonight. Alex kept yelling, "You're making this shit up. You're all in on it. What, got a whole press team hiding in the bushes?" Crockett raised a hand, calm, brief. There was no one in the bushes, but the dash cam on her government vehicle had been recording since the moment she stepped out of the driver's seat. And Marcus, silent all this time, had started recording the moment he called her. Still, no one said it. Because the best kind of collapse is the one you don't have to touch. Alex was spiraling like a sedated animal refusing to fall. He yanked out his phone, barked into it. "I'm calling my superior. I'm gonna—" "You did," Crockett said softly, "and I'm here." Alex flinched, then threw his phone to the ground. His eyes went wild. His face flushed red like something inside was choking on rage. "You're all fake. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just doing my job. He turned to Marcus, jabbed a finger in his face. "And you play the victim real good. You gonna file a complaint like your brother too, huh? Well, let me remind you, your brother had a busted tail light. I had every right to pull him over." Silence. Marcus frowned. Crockett turned her head. Slowly, the wind swept past the roadside like a short breath of truth. Her voice wasn't a warning anymore. It was a scalpel, cutting into a blind spot. "Your report from that year states, I observed no mechanical issues with the vehicle. I stopped the car due to erratic lane changes." The words dropped like a trap laid bare, and Alex, in his chaos, stepped right into it. His face locked, frozen, only now realizing he had contradicted his own official statement, repeating the same misconduct, exposing the same old lie. Marcus spoke on quietly. "He wasn't driving. I was. I was in the back seat. He was just teaching me how to drive." Crockett stepped closer to Alex. This time no mention of the past. Only facts, measured like a drumbeat. Unjustified stop, threat of force, Unlawful detainment. Pattern of abuse of power. Repeat of previously reported behavior. She paused. You have the right to remain silent, and this time I strongly suggest you use it. Alex stumbled back, but no one touched him, because no one needed to. He'd already handcuffed himself. With every word, every shout, every crack in the night that sounded exactly like guilt. The next morning, the sun rose late. Mist drifted across the rooftops on the edge of Birchfield, like a thin layer of ash over something that had just burned down. On the morning news feed, the headline appeared in clean, cold font. Lieutenant Alex Warren suspended, pending internal review for repeated use of force misconduct. Below it, a thinner line, but it dropped like a stone into the center of the lake. 2020 complaint involving Lamar Tillman reopened under federal oversight. For the first time, that name wasn't buried at the bottom of some spreadsheet or pinned on a wall of inconclusive cases. Lamar Tillman made the front page, not as a number, not as a file stamped insufficient basis, but as a man. A man who had once stood up against wrong and had been silenced in the most American way possible. Ignored. Later that afternoon, in the backyard of a shuttered church, a place that once sheltered black families denied loans, about 30 people sat in a loose circle around a folding table draped in cotton cloth. They came only to speak, each with a sliver of memory about dragged-out random checks, forms returned without explanation, and eyes lowered in government buildings when there was no evidence strong enough to outweigh humiliation. A boy stood up, 12 maybe, wearing a faded t-shirt, holding a cardboard fold-out like an easel. His eyes scanned the adults, then landed on the tall man in an old button-down, standing next to the makeshift nameplate for Lamar Tillman. My mom once told me, when someone dies and no one remembers their name, it's like they died twice. No one spoke for several seconds. Then an old woman nodded. A younger man placed a hand on his chest. No one clapped. They just held the silence. Not the kind reserved for funerals, but the kind that reclaims a name, the right way. In the distance, Marcus Tillman stood beside Jasmine Crockett. They didn't interrupt. They let the story be told by the community, not by declarations, but by mouths that had waited years to speak. In Marcus's hands was the original appeal his brother had filed, once stamped insufficient grounds, and in Crockett's hands, a new file, sealed by the Office of Executive Oversight, labeled Priority 1. I used to think, Marcus said quietly, that it took a lot of power to change a file like this. No, Crockett replied. It takes a lot of people not staying silent. The wind lifted the edge of her coat, carried a curl of dried grass. Beneath their feet, tufts of green pushed through the dirt, patchy, uneven, but stubborn, as if even the land itself was trying to rewrite its story. And then, on an afternoon that looked like stillness, something changed. Not the laws, not the salaries, not the ink that had faded in old reports, but the way that ink was written now, in human voices, in retold truths, and in the vow of a community that would never let the name Lamar Tillman disappear again.